I'm Danny Otto. Welcome into an all-new episode of That Recap Show. Now, normally this would be the part where I'd say major spoiler alert ahead, but we are on the journey towards Deadpool and Wolverine, and along the way we are going back and rewatching all of the classic X-Men and Deadpool movies. Speaking of Deadpool, today we are recapping the first Deadpool movie. So without further ado, let's start the show.
Poppin' Off presents That Recap Show.
All right, join with me to recap and share our favorite moments from the original Deadpool movie. It's Jon Jon Rico!
Let's talk Green Lantern.
Maximum Effort.
Oh, wrong movie.
Wrong movie. You're going to change it.
Yep.
He explicitly asked that the super suit not be CGI. Okay.
Dang it. Here we are.
Here we are, and I am so excited that we're here. This is, this might be number one on my list. I know we haven't officially put out our rankings list for all of the movies that we're watching, but man, as you know, as great of a movie as Logan is that we're going to be recapping, you know, a little bit further down the line on this list, this honestly, for me personally, might be the top of my list. Just because in every sense of the movie, I enjoy this movie. Like the comedy, the action, the character, like this is like my favorite movie on the list, I think.
Yeah, you like silly, and this is silly to the max. So
yeah, it's silly to the max, but it works. Like, look, and I'll get right into it. There are plenty of times, you know, while we've been recapping, not just on this list, but just in general, where I've explained that, you know, I didn't, you know, get into superhero comics before the movies type of thing. So I watch the movies, and then the ones that the characters that I find interesting, you know, I look up and I sometimes I follow them, stuff like that. Like, especially with Guardians of the Galaxy, after I saw the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie, I was like, I need to know about these characters. And I looked them up. I didn't really read the comics, but, you know, I kind of got familiarized with the characters that were in the first movie and stuff like that. This was the movie that actually made me go out and physically get comic books. I have a stack about this high of Deadpool comics, and I have, you know, 2 thick books of Deadpool comics, thanks to you. For this, because it's just it meant that much to me. I could go on for forever. I'm gonna do my best not to turn this recap into, hey, that was an awesome part. Hey, that line was my favorite line. Hey, this is my favorite part. But I can't not do one of my lines that lives rent free in my head from this movie, and I've said it probably a million times, and definitely within probably the last week, if not week and a half, and it's.
All the dinosaurs feared the T-Rex.
It's one of my favorite lines, and I reference it more than I should. But before I get too far into this, and before I just turn it into like, that's my favorite part, oh, this is my favorite line, that's my other favorite part, this is my other favorite line. Rico, what were some of, I guess, instant reactions, stuff that you've always enjoyed about this movie in general?
Yeah, one of the things that's always interested me about this movie is the story around like the making of it. Obviously, like the whole way the character started in the Wolverine movie to where it became in this movie, and just kind of seeing the way that Ryan Reynolds wanted to campaign to get this movie made to begin with. Seeing everything the character done to fruition is just really satisfying to watch. And also one of the things I really appreciate about this movie, but also like the whole Deadpool franchise as a whole, because we're seeing it now with Deadpool and Wolverine, is they take the marketing campaign to another level every single time. I think one of my favorite things leading up to this movie, because I think it came out Valentine's Day weekend, if I'm not mistaken. The way they would market some of the posters was like after like legit romance movies. Like you would just show posters of just Wade and Vanessa, and it was like a perfect movie to take your boyfriend to. And like I bet some people probably did get duped by that, thinking like, oh, let's go see this nice little romance movie. It a romance movie. Like they're not lying to you when he just said this is a love story, and it does play into that to its full effect. But yeah, I think just the way that Ryan Reynolds is just taking full creative control over this character, not just on the screen but off the screen as well, is one of the more impressive feats behind it. And I think it's just one of those things where like, along with Hugh Jackman, of course, as Wolverine, which is why we're so excited to see these two characters together. It's hard to see anybody else but these actors as these two characters because they embody them so well.
Yeah, go right off. You said, like, I remember some of the promo stuff for the movie was like Deadpool on a bearskin rug in front of a fireplace and goes, "The perfect date night movie." Like, I just remember all of that marketing and campaign. It's all coming flooding back in as you're describing it.
It was amazing. Yeah,
yeah. And look, everything you're saying goes perfectly into kind of my takeaways. So you want to get to some takeaways?
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome. All right, I'm going to give up big takeaways only because I've been excited about this movie since we got the leaked CGI test footage for this movie. I remember back when Ryan Reynolds was doing interviews going, yeah, someone leaked the test footage.
Yeah, I don't know who could have done it.
He would just say something like that.
Tim, yeah. Again, someone should leak it. Someone should leak it. So the idea was planned, but I'm 70% sure it wasn't me.
Yeah, but when you saw that leaked footage, it was like, oh my God, they have to make this movie now. Like, they have to, because even the test footage being CGI and not completely finished or anything like that was all you needed to know that Ryan Reynolds had a complete handle on this character. And you needed more instantly after seeing that test footage. And I just remember how painfully it was to wait from when that test footage leaked to when it got greenlit and to when it actually was like coming out. Like, I just remember that wait, how painful that wait was, and just rewatching that test footage so many times and stuff like that. But I love that the test footage ended up being the opening scene of the movie type of thing. Like, they recreated it with obviously a much better budget and much better effects and stuff like that. It was a perfect opening scene. I love even that they were able to make fun of themselves and make fun of like the intros in movies with like nobody's name is actually in the credits, in the intro credits or anything like that.
Yeah, the opening credits.
Every part of this movie is funny, breaking fourth walls, making fun of themselves. Like, every part of this movie is great. And I love, it goes back to, full, complete control over, the character, the movie itself, and the marketing and stuff like that. And it's just, I think this is just a great example of how
the fourth wall breaking of it's all played into it. Like, Deadpool's just talking shit on the writers, basically.
Exactly. Exactly. And it's perfect. And I love that. And yeah, I mean, that's why, like, even before we started recording, I was like, I really don't know how I'm going to talk about this movie because I love every part of it, type of thing. So that's why I'm kind of just, I'm touching on little parts of things that I liked without going into like, oh, I remember that part. I really love that. Hey, remember that part? I really love that. But yeah, that opening car chase scene, maximum effort while he jumps into the sunroof. I loved that. And I also love how we can start in the present and we can have this action-filled scene, and then we can kind of run into a flashback and start the story where it should start. But like, it starts, kind of in the present and then goes to the past. I like how they're able to do that because it instantly grabs you with that action scene. And then it's able to go, okay, let's pause there for a second and let's give you some backstory. And I like how they were able to do that. I like movies in general that do that. I do enjoy a little bit.
Yeah, non-linear style. Yeah.
Right. Because it knows what the audience wants. It gives you like that brief, action that pulls you in really quick. And then it goes, hey, wait a minute, let's rewind and let's show you what led up to this type of thing. And I kind of like that. And then the movie goes from there, which is cool. But yeah, I could talk on and on and on about this movie because there's just so many parts that I really enjoy. But before I get too far ahead of myself, Rico, what were some of your big takeaways from the first Deadpool?
Yeah, it's a nice little take on basically the origin, almost like a redo on his origin, basically. Yeah. Because when it comes to like the timelines and stuff, like he says, these timelines are confusing. I doubt he's supposed to be the same Wade, of course, from the Wolverine, of course. I was saying in that recap, I do like to imagine this Deadpool being that character at the end of that, like he just put his head back on, and then he just kind of did his thing. But we get like an actual story with like the Wade before he was actually like Deadpool. And I do like that we get like that moment because I think it's almost hard to see him as that version of Wade now because he's now the Deadpool that we know. But to kind of see the person that he was before this and just seeing that like he really was just that guy, but he's just like, you know, his powers don't make him any different than what he was. That's which is what I love. He just really just like embodies the spirit of the character. And I think as great as Ryan Reynolds is as Wade Deadpool in this movie, I honestly don't think the movie works as well as it does without the supporting cast around him. Because everybody that he works off of it plays off of him very well too. My favorite person to watch him interact with was Colossus, especially that scene where he's breaking his hands and feet on him. I just think the whole way that those two, because it's like the you know, the angel and the devil almost on your shoulder, like because Colossus is just like the embodiment. He's like almost like Superman, like the Russian Superman, just being like brush your teeth, eat your vegetables, like almost like Hulk Hogan. But I really love that, and just like the way that he's kind of like trying to bring Deadpool over to like to their level, and just like he just refuses at any cost. It's just really funny. I love the way that Negasonic Teenage Warhead bounces off him with her deadpan style. Blind Al as another person who does a great job of just kind of giving Wade shit back to him, which is also really good because some people just take it from him, but only those two really give it back to him. And I think that's really fun to watch, like that dynamic. And then you got guys like Dopinder as well, who's just become a really fun character to watch as these movies progress. And then, geez, that actor in general just had a really cool run because now he's the voice of Spider-Man, for God's sake. So it's just really cool to watch like some of the stars that this movie is going to introduce. And now when I see them in other projects, like, hey, it's that person from Deadpool, like Blind Out, seeing Blind Out and Fallout or something like that. I'm like, okay, now that because I love her in these movies, I can appreciate seeing him in other stuff too. So I really think, the supporting characters in this movie really do make it. I think even the chemistry between Ryan and Vanessa is probably the most important of all, and it hits on all levels. I think Miranda Bachran and Ryan Reynolds just have a really cool on-screen chemistry, and I think every time those two were together, it was just really it was a love story that I was like really fascinated by, especially in the comic book world. So I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. You mentioned Blind Al, and the only thing I can think of is when she's building the IKEA furniture.
I don't mind the Cunin. It's an improvement on the Herdal.
Please. Anything's an improvement over the Herdal.
It like falls apart.
And the way they were like get specific with like the titles of the furniture and just like, I would do anything over the like the Swedish word over there. Like just so specific dialogue that's just like that's kind of fun. They probably had just doing that stuff.
Yeah, I am sure there's a ton of like improvised lines that made it into this movie. I would have loved to have seen how many takes for certain scenes because I am sure people were cracking up at certain parts, and then they just redid it and they did something completely different, and you know whatever made it type of thing. Like you really can kind of tell when the characters in like when actors in movies have good chemistry together when you can see it on screen, but you can kind of feel it in the takes that happen.
Feel how much fun they had. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And this was definitely like there's definitely a lot of scenes in here that you can tell they did multiple times and they were laughing and they were figuring it out and like what's the funniest one we can
almost use. like a Judd Apatow movie set where like I remember watching like the DVDs of those movies and like the special features had like all the extra lines that they would just throw in the movie because they would just go riffing line after line to line, reference after reference. Right. And I can imagine there was a lot of this in this movie just because of a lot of like the fourth wall breaking and like how many things could you compare to other things in this, and it's for sure.
Yeah, like when he first takes off his mask and they're doing it looks like an avocado.
Yeah, the weasel stuff. Yeah.
I know they did a bunch of those.
Sure. Yeah, he didn't know it was a big comedian at the time too. So like I'm sure he was having a lot of fun riffing there.
Absolutely. Do you want to get to predictions? Question mark.
Yeah, let's do it.
Spitballing predictions.
Spitballing.
There we go. You want to kick us off?
I guess really just this could feel like a prediction because we're actually dealing within the franchise of the movie we're going to be recapping soon. But so I imagine that Deadpool and Wolverine will not only have like deep cut references for the Fox X-Men stuff as a whole, just like we've been saying throughout our past recaps. But I've been really curious to see how much of like Wade's past they'll bring into this. Kind of bridging the gap between like the Fox Deadpool movies and this new Disney Deadpool. And obviously we know we're getting a lot of the supporting cast back. If it's really just building off of the events of Deadpool 2, I really want to see, or just kind of like this reworked timeline because of all of Deadpool's time traveling and stuff like that. But I just don't know how, like, as far as this first movie, I just don't know what you can take from it that we can reference back. And I guess if anything, I would want to see Ed Skrein back, maybe as Francis Ajax. I think he was just a really fun character. He was a really fun asshole character to watch compared to Deadpool. It made like he's a really good character that made you want to root for Deadpool to kick his ass, which he ultimately did. But yeah, I think there was just really one character that they would bring back. It would be him. And I think it would be it would just have to be somewhere in the void. I can only picture these guys in the void somewhere, unless they're going to be making their way to other timeline parts too. I know we're getting some scenes possibly in the somewhere from Logan, so I don't know if maybe they will go somewhere from Deadpool. And of course, in Deadpool, they do have the helicarrier too. That was like their little subtle Easter egg reference. So I wonder if that's going to be mentioned in some form, like hey, you had one of these in here and you weren't even supposed to have it. It's like like I just want to see them do some really fun meta humor when it comes to like bridging the gap between those two worlds, I guess. And I guess when it comes to this movie, where what's stuff that's already happened in Wade's past, I just want to see what they're going to cross over from there for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I am, I'm more excited than ever, especially after, now that we're here, we're actually starting to recap Deadpool. We have Deadpool 2 to look forward to recap also, stuff like that. It's just getting me more and more excited for Deadpool and Wolverine. But yeah, I'm hoping for all of the jokes that we can possibly get. But I'm really interested because I went back and watched kind of the trailer for Deadpool and Wolverine, and I am interested to see what his motivation was for kind of, changing things. Like, because I mean, we see at the end of Deadpool 2, which, we're going to get to originally, that he was kind of cleaning up the timeline, in a joking way. He kills the Deadpool from X-Men Origins.
Yeah, exactly.
He kills himself
kills Ryan Reynolds,
right, before he can do the Green Lantern movie, like stuff like that, like all joking sense. But we do get some references to him actually kind of changing the timeline and kind of giving up the superhero thing. And I mean, there are even some like thoughts that him and Vanessa aren't together either, like type of thing. In some people have pointed out, it kind of feels that way in the beginning of the trailer type of thing. So I'm wondering what he changed, like if he changed like subtle things, because obviously he's still Deadpool, so he didn't change.
What was the butterfly effect of those changes?
Right, exactly. That's what I'm really curious to kind of see, because I mean, obviously everyone's together, so he didn't change, the interactions that he had with certain people, because Dopepender's there, we have Blind Owl there, we have Vanessa, we have,
Rico, Negasonic, Teenage Warhead are there.
Exactly.
Everyone's there. The whole gang's there, basically.
Everybody's there. So I'm wondering if he just kind of changed subtle things. Like, him and Vanessa might not even be a change. He might have just said, like, hey, we can't be together because you're going to die. Like, he went back. He saved her once. And maybe that was kind of
points in time.
Right. Yeah. Maybe he's like, if we're ever together, then you're going to die type of thing. So we can't be together that way.
I forget what they call those moments where like those moments have to happen.
Nexus
moments.
Is it a nexus?
Is it a nexus moment or something like that? Yeah, I can't remember what they call those, but or a fixed moment in time or whatever they call them. I wonder if it's kind of like one of those scenarios.
Yeah, so I'm curious about that and what kind of made him, I guess, give up being Deadpool in general, because we have him as just Wade until the TVA kind of comes and captured him type of thing. Like, that's what we're seeing. That's what kicks off this entire movie. And I'm assuming that's actually the linear part of the movie in the trailer, where, because obviously it wouldn't make sense if that happened like in the middle of the movie or something like that. Like, so I think that part of the beginning of the trailer is actually the beginning of the movie, like pre-TVA interfering type of thing. So I don't know. I'm just really excited for the movie. I can't. I've watched the trailer. Yeah, we are so close yet so far away. But yeah, I can't wait. I'm every movie that we get closer in this recap that we're doing, this stroll down memory lane of these past movies, it makes me more and more excited for Deadpool and Wolverine. Like, as we get closer and closer to this. But yeah, this I haven't finalized my list, but this, if it's not number one, it's number two. Like, that's how close this is on my list, type of thing. So it's
up there for me. For me, this movie, the biggest thing, I think that first viewing experience will always be, I think, the most prime viewing experience for me. I think it kind of lessens a little bit for each view for me, but I still love the movie just because I see a lot of the jokes coming. I think a lot of them just like I think a lot of the surprise factor, the humor really was what hit for me. And then the more you see the jokes coming, I think it's like you just kind of start to watch the story, but okay, now. So I do love it still, but I just still wish that some of the jokes like had that same sting every single time they hit for me. So it's still up there in like the top 5-ish range for me. But we've had some pretty this whole rewatch is make me like reevaluate how I look like at all these movies, which I'm really fascinated by because sometimes some of them I remember more fondly than I thought I did, and then some of them are like, oh, okay, I thought I loved that as much as I didn't love that as much as I remember loving it. But like there's still stuff to love in them, so like it's been really like a fascinating journey so far.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
What Apocalypse is going to be like.
That'll be my first time.
Another first one for you,
yeah, another first. I have another one besides that on the list also that I haven't seen. I never watched Dark Phoenix either. So
and we have I haven't really watched. I've watched New Mutants once, but I don't really remember watching it. So it would feel like your first viewing for me.
There you go. There we go. Everybody gets a first on the list. But anyway, as we always say, that's what we think. Let us know in the comments below. What is your favorite moment from the original Deadpool movie? And I don't know what else to say because I think it's one of the best movies. Where does it rank on this, list leading to Deadpool and Wolverine? Is it your number one? Is it very close up there, or is this lower because maybe you like the original X-Men movies better and Logan, so maybe it's a little bit lower on your list? But let us know in the comments below. And as always, don't forget, like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to hear about all of our latest audio and video podcast releases. Bye, everybody!
Poppin' Off presents That Recap Show.